Hari Om. Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samastan Janakalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Om Sri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakaroti Pravaram Munina Patanjalim Pranjalina Natosmi. Hari Om. With the grace of Gurudeva, we are trying to see the philosophy and the practical implication of the philosophy called Sankhya as elaborated in Ashtanga Yoga by Bhagavan Maharshi Sri Patanjali. Being an extremely pragmatic darshana, as it is called, amongst the 6 darshanas, the Shad darshanas, Patanjali Yoga Darshanam is the most pragmatic of the darshanas, being the darshan that emphasizes on implementation. Implementation with clear awareness of the goal, dheya, the sadhana, the method, and how to adopt this methodology. If we very minutely observe our actions, we will realize that one of the main paramount thing that we do in our life is to acquire knowledge. From the smallest possible creature, our level best to get the sukham. But behind every sukham, if we see what we are doing nothing but expanding the knowledge that we have. All of us, we go to the schools, the colleges, the professional colleges. In our professional life, or whatever mundane work we are doing, in the work also, we are constantly trying to learn more. And that expansion of knowledge is nothing else but an intimate contact with the consciousness that is already prevailing within us. Now I know that I am aware and I am knowledgeable about something. Everyone is knowledgeable about something or the other by the very fact that we are born. Right from the moment of the birth, we are aware of something. Even a child who is born, who is still not aware of the ego per se, the way we define it, still he is aware of the environment, which makes him cry. So the presence of awareness is a manifestation of knowledge. To be aware is to be knowledgeful. So there is a constant endeavor in our life to have more and more knowledge. In fact, the sukham that we are trying to establish in the objects that are around us is nothing else but the resultant effect of the touch of consciousness that we get in that object. And how can we define the knowledge? Knowing a thing is knowledge is a very crude definition of knowledge. A refined definition of knowledge is handshaking of the consciousness within me with the handshaking of the and handshaking that consciousness with the consciousness residing in an object is called knowledge. Because what is that we intend to know in an object? You want to know what a car is. But car is an assemblage, bhuta sanghata, assemblage of different parts. If a car is assemblage of different parts, when you try to have the knowledge about the car, you will study invariably the parts of the car. When you study the parts of the car, you realize, oh, they are again assemblage of different parts. So you will study the parts of the parts. And that is why you ultimately land in studying the particulate matter or the particles, as they're rightly called. So zeroing down further, it may go to the level of even atomic or subatomic level of particles, and yet you will find there are parts. What it means is the knowledge has different levels arising from the very basic constituent to the assemblages at different levels. A huge assemblage is Ashtadha Prakriti. As we keep on dividing and delving deeper into any of the objects, that object will be seen to contain minute particles. Then those particles will be replaced by vibrations. We further focus on the vibrations, we realize those vibrations are nothing else but the sound of something. We further dwell deeper into that, and we find that the sound itself is emanating from an idea or ideation or a kalpana, the thought. That means the subtlest of the object that we can see around, or the subtler part of me and the grosser part of me, if I study, on a grosser level, I'm a body of 5 feet 5 inches, having different organs, smiling, talking, being referred to as Mr. So-and-so. But if I analyze myself within me, start dissecting myself, I shall go inside as assemblage of different parts. There is a brain, there is a heart, there is a kidney, there is a liver, there is a spleen, there are legs, there are arms. These are my parts. I take one part called liver and I keep on analyzing it, and I realize that it is all made up of the cells called hepatocytes. When I see an hepatocyte, a cell, I realize that it is made up of again assemblages called nucleus, nucleolus, and the protoplasm or the cytoplasm, and the boundary walls called cell walls. And I take one aspect of that called nucleus and I go inside and I realize that it is made up of lots and lots of parts, one of which is nucleolus. I go inside the nucleolus and I realize that it is made up of different types of chromosomes. And I analyze into the chromosomes and I realize it is made up of genes. I analyze further into the genes, I realize it is made up of the different types of deoxyribonucleic acid and the ribonucleic acid, the DNAs and the RNAs. I dwell deeper into that and I realize they are made up of nothing else but the nucleotides. And I dwell deeper into the nucleotides and I realize that they are made up of proteins called adenosine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. The process continues. The dissection continues. And with that continues the expansion of what is called as knowledge. That means knowledge, to know, the Sanskrit word for that is ved, is nothing else but a constant endeavor to expand what? Expand the frontiers of my consciousness. More knowledgeable I am, more I have expanded the frontier of my consciousness. Anybody who is referred as an intelligent person compared to an ordinary person, the only difference between two is, in one, the consciousness hasn't expressed to the extent it has expressed in an intelligent person. This expansion of consciousness is an act performed by the body, but the organ responsible for expansion of this consciousness is the organ which has a capacity to hold the consciousness and dwell upon it, and that organ is called intangible intelligence. It is an organ which cannot be shown as a part of the body in the laboratory, yet it is the organ that has ability to hold the reflection of the consciousness and expand it. The very fact that we are trying to study Patanjali Maharaj's Yoga Shastra is an attempt to increase the consciousness, limit of the consciousness, and once it gets increased, once you say, I have understood it, that means you have become knowledgeable about Yoga Shastra. That itself means you have expanded the consciousness. How well I will understand these Yoga Shastra, Upanishads and the knowledge depends upon what is the ability of the intelligence or the buddhi to grasp, as we say in common language, but in Yoga Shastra language, it depends upon how much the buddhi can handle the expansion of the consciousness. If more the capacity of the buddhi to handle the expansion of consciousness, you will be more and more knowledgeable. Mind well, in knowing any object, there has to be a knower, there has to be an object which is to be known, and there has to be a process called knowledge. But you will realize as we move in higher and higher planes, the intelligence, so-called antakarana, when it goes into a territory of higher expansion, the process of a clear-cut distinguish between knower, knowledge, and known slowly starts disappearing. If today I have to study the Yoga Shastra, I have to keep the book in front of me because that is the object from where I'm going to get the knowledge. I have to sit for the study because I'm going to be the knower of the knowledge. And I have to really struggle hard to know what is the content in that particular book called Patanjali Yoga Darshanam. However, as the expansion of the consciousness starts increasing, then in that case, the capacity or the scope of the intelligence or the antakarana to grasp the thing increases by geometric proportions. It is like a searchlight. Imagine somebody who has a small torch with him, and imagine somebody having a floodlight or a torchlight with him. The amount of things illuminated by the floodlight shall be enormously higher than the torch that we are carrying. That is why the ability of the intelligence or the antakarana to expand the consciousness depends upon the purity of the antakarana. And that is the reason why in every yoga, may it be karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, or a raja yoga, the predominant step that everyone has to undertake is chitta shuddhi. Chitta Shuddhi is nothing else but purification of the Antakarana or the intelligence. And this purification of Antakarana or the intelligence is a must for exploiting the ability of Antakarana to expand the consciousness and gain more and more knowledge. When it comes to getting the knowledge or the expansion of consciousness is concerned, it could be directed towards the outward objects to know them more and more. That is precisely what the scientist does, a Nobel laureate, a scientist, a researcher, a person of Newton's caliber, Einstein's caliber. He focuses his buddhi, antakarana, or the intelligence on the outer aspect, observes something which is not observed so far by anyone, simply because of enormous expansion they are able to do of their antakarana with the help of focusing the antakarana on the subject that they are thinking, called concentration. So the buddhi or the antakarana, purer it is, more competent it is, it has ability to concentrate. So purer the antakarana, more the ability to concentrate, more the expansion of the consciousness, more knowledgeable the person is. How much one can expand the consciousness, how much one can be knowledgeable, depends on how much effort one has put in expanding the consciousness. There are people, rishis and munis, who have undertaken this exercise so seriously that their expansion of consciousness has actually transcended the limits. Then comes the question that if expansion of consciousness is becoming more knowledgeable, then does this process keep on growing and growing and growing, and when does it stop? Is there a point where the consciousness ends? Is there a point where the knowledge ends? And the answer to this question is, the knowledge begins with knowledge of something. It expands further into knowledge component becoming more and of component becoming less and less. We all are knowledgeable about something, about engineering, about medical, about my job. But as the expansion increases of the consciousness, you become knowledgeable and knowledgeable and knowledgeable, and the of and about becomes smaller and smaller. This is precisely what is treated in 18th Adhyaya of Bhagavad Gita as Jnata Jnana Jneya Triputi slowly starts dissolving. Now the question is, when the light increases so high and becomes so big like sun, then the blazing sun illuminates everything, yet it is not illuminating a thing. Everything under the sun gets illuminated by the sun, but the sun is not specifically illuminating a thing. In other words, consciousness, when it expands to its fullest, you are aware of everything that is there within the field of consciousness. However, simultaneously, you need not be aware of it as an object. It sounds like a paradox. You are aware of everything, yet you are not aware of anything. To take an example of a very crude type, which cannot or perhaps not match with what we have been talking, but we all have nails to our fingers. We are aware that our fingers have nails, but we are not aware of it till we look at them as nails and start painting them with a nail paint or start cutting them with a nail cutter. So what happened prior to using the nail cutter? We were aware that we have the nail, but we never minded it. Meaning thereby we never thought of it as an object. We did not focus on that object. Now imagine the whole universe and the whole creation is like a nail. That's why Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita says that one of my angula, one of my finger is this creation. I am that big. What it means is, I am aware of everything because nothing escapes my light. At the same time, I'm not aware of any specific thing because I haven't focused myself on anything specific, and I need not do so. So when the consciousness keeps expanding, higher and higher realms are known to us. The smallest possible consciousness that gets reflected through the antakarana, it's seen in inanimate objects like stone. But as the antakarana progresses farther and farther, from the stone to the unicellular animals, to the multicellular animals, through the development of species of plants, and then further, we realize that the higher consciousness is coming slowly upwards and manifests to the best possible extent in a body called human being, Naradeha. Once the manifestation is in that body, in Naradeha, then the consciousness makes us supreme compared to the other species who are lesser in consciousness. However ferocious the tiger may be, he is subservient to the man because he can kill the tiger, because he has higher consciousness to understand how a projectile open called gun can be used against the tiger. Now, if you take a kaleidoscope of amoeba on the one hand and the human being on the other hand, we see nothing else but evolution of consciousness. Kapil Maharaj's Sankhya theory believes in evolution, which is not evolution of species or survival for the fittest. That is a Darwinian theory. The theory of Sankhyas, which believes in evolution, is evolution of consciousness. Because we are all belong to human being race or human race, we are all aware that our consciousness is higher than all the species subservient to us, right from the amoebas, the plants, and everything till our own state. Then when we come to human beings, we realize that there are dull people, there are people who are sharp in brain, intelligence, and the variety can only be explained by the availability of consciousness and the ability to reflect the consciousness in their body through antakarana. Higher the antakarana's purity, higher is the reflection of the consciousness, more intelligent the person is. If the kaleidoscope of amoeba to human being can be studied in this manner, then there is another kaleidoscope starting at an ordinary human being called Sadharana Purusha. And from that point, the consciousness can further expand from Sadharana Purusha to the Uttama Purusha, or the Kevali or the Kaivalya Jnana Yukta Purusha. The one who has realized the Purusha, Tattvam of the Sankhya, one who has transcended the Prakriti, established into the blazing sun of consciousness called Purusha, is the other extreme of this evolution. Yoga Shastra and Sankhya Tattvajnana is all about this evolution of the consciousness, starting in the human antakarana and reaching to the logical conclusion of ultimate consciousness called Purusha Khyati. And it's not only the glimpse of this Purusha Khyati, but being established into the Purusha Khyati forever, which is called as Sarvatha Purusha Khyati. In this journey, yogi undertakes the first step, and the first step is, when you want to enter inside, you will have to shut down everything that is outside. Shutting off the outside world, because the internal journey is about to begin, is a process called Vairagyam, which we all saw that through Vairagyam, the yogi starts his journey by shunning and shutting the outer world, the world of objects, subjects, and relationships, all are abandoned, and the focus is only on him, not his body, but on his antakarana. The yogi has only one object in front of us, and that object is his own antakarana, or the intelligence or the buddhi power. This antakarana, because of his earlier deeds, he has purified. Mind well, the yogi can sit for meditation, or anyone for that matter can sit for meditation only and only when the object to be used, called intelligence, is of pristine purity. The crystal ball, the crystal glass, which is going to be now on a forward march to grapple with the consciousness of a higher order, has to be absolutely clean, and then only it can hold the enormous quantity of consciousness. The ability of antakarna to hold the consciousness depends on the purity. An impure heart cannot hold the consciousness. That is why no yogi can start his journey unless his heart is pure. In fact, he is not called as a yogi if his heart is not pure, his chitta is not shuddha, and that is why all the karmas that we do, if the karmas are shuddha, swartha rahita, karma janya rahita, then the shuddhata can be of a higher stage. Those who have done enormous attempt to purify their hearts, in their heart emerges a desire, the desire for higher consciousness, because there is no desire left in this world. If the desire is still left in this world, then you cannot have the desire for the inner journey. You cannot ride it on two horses at the same time. You can be in the world or you can be outside the world. You can't be in both the worlds as well as outside, unless if you reach the supreme consciousness called Purusha, then by sheer ability of Purusha, he can be the one who can be in the world and outside the world. That is why only it is Bhagavan who is called as Kshetrajna at the same time and Nirguna at the same time. To be in the part of the Srujana world or a Srushti, and to be outside the Srushti. This is what precisely Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita when he says, I am into everybody, everybody is in me, I am not into anybody. Hum sabma, sab hamima, hum hai bahuri akela. What he means is, the ability to have this kind of presence is only possible for Bhagavan or the Ishvara. That is why yogi, till it reaches the avastha of Ishvara or the Kevali, he has to abandon the outside world through the Vairagyam. And once he does that, he starts his movement inside. And then the only implement that he has when he starts his journey inside is a clean slate called tabula rasa in Greek philosophy, a clean slate, which is called as Shuddha Chitta. And then he starts writing on it, which is called as concentration. Ekagrata of the mind is an essential prerequisite of a yogi for this inward journey. When he undertakes this inward journey, we did see that he goes through what is called as Sampradnat Samadhi and reaches a Sampradnat Samadhi. We saw that the stages of Sampradnat Samadhi, his consciousness expands, and with every stage of expansion of consciousness, yogi becomes more and more knowledgeable. We all must note one thing, that in the beginning, the yogi has enormous amount of efforts to be done, and that is why he puts his mind under control and sits with concentration, because he's pushing the frontiers of consciousness with great effort. The efforts may be at times frustrating to him, but as he pushes the boundaries farther and farther, and moment he reaches what is called as Sananda Samadhi, Sananda Sampradnyat Samadhi, that is the time he starts testing the results of the concentration. Now he starts getting happiness of a different kind in what he's doing. And that is why a yogi who has gone up to the stage of Sananda Samadhi now is not interested in anything else because he has tested at least partly the nectar of happiness. This happiness of yogi is million times more than the happiness of human beings. And that is why if an ordinary human being, a mortal, a sadharana purusha, if he's interested in having happiness and keeps running helter-skelter to get that happiness through the objects, yogi sits silently amidst the forest in a solitude, concentrating and constantly enjoying the anandam that he's getting there. That is how, irrespective of what he's getting as a food to eat, irrespective of the fact that he's sitting into a jungle where there could be wild animals, but the fear doesn't touch him because he's already basking in the happiness called Sananda Samadhi. But even in those stages, the yogis who are aware that this anandam is nothing else but a small lake or the pond that is coming in my way, and I have to go beyond that, with his sheer dint of his courage, he moves forward from Ananda to Vichara and then enters into the field of Asampradnat Samadhi. When he enters into Asampradnat Samadhi, his expansion of consciousness has reached to a stage which almost completely covers the entire creation called Prakriti. Simultaneously being aware of the entire creation is a phenomenally high thing which is very even difficult to imagine. Knowing few things in our life, we call ourselves knowledgeable because it gives us so much of pleasure that I am a person knowledgeable. It is like saying that, look how powerful I am. I'm able to carry a small particle of sugar from one point to other point in front of a mammoth animal. With that comparison, one can imagine how and what kind of control or what kind of knowledge, awareness the mind of a yogi can have. That being the reason, it is said that dhyana vastiti yadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yogino. What yogis see in the dhyanam, tasya anta na viduhu sura suragana. If the gods cannot know the depth of the knowledge of a yogi, mortals like us can never understand it. And moment the yogi has gone to the expansion of knowledge or expansion of consciousness to the level where the entire creation is now known to him at a prakriti level, it is quite possible that he becomes tadatmya with the prakriti and may remain there because it is a feeling, it is a state which can grapple the consciousness that is existing in the antakarana of the yogi, and he might become what is called as prakriti laya yogi. And once he merges with the Prakriti, you know what Prakriti is? Prakriti is the entire creation. Supposing somebody has merged with suppose somebody's body is as big as entire creation. How long will he last there? He will last till that body is dissolved. That means till the Prakriti is dissolved. This body who is talking is dissolved in 80 years. That body which is called Prakriti or the Srishti is dissolved only at the time of Pralaya. That means such a yogi will be dissolved only after the pralaya and then will reach the destination. However, there are yogis of enormous power who even at this stage are able to keep themselves afloat and yet put again what is called as human efforts to move further than the Prakriti, and that is called as a final jump, for which he requires virya, smriti, jnana, which is prajna. And with that utsaham, he undertakes the last part of the journey. And then from this particular stage, he reaches a stage where he is able to see the Purusha, be one with the Purusha, and that is called Sarvata Purusha Khyatihi. This Sarvata Purusha Khyatihi is also called as Dharma Megha Samadhi. Dharma Megha because it is like a cloud of the Dharma, meaning whatever such person does is Dharma. What whatever happens from him is dharma. So the real definition of dharma, we have seen that there are three definitions of dharma given by Kanada Rishi, given by Vyasa Rishi, given by Jaimina Rishi, Chodan Lakshana, Artho Dharma, etc., etc. But the real definition of dharma is how a Kaivalya Jnana Prapta Yogi behaves, that is dharma. Why it is dharma? Because how to behave in this creation is only known to he who created the world or the one who has reached the stage of the creator. That is why when I behave morally and ethically in my society, the standards of morals and ethics are drawn by my society. If it is in an African tribe, it is perfectly normal to see each other and greet by spitting at each other. It could be absolutely disgusting for any other community. That is because the rules of ethics and morality differ from the determinants of that society. If these rules of morals and ethics are going to constitute the dharma, then the dharma will always be under variation. But at the stage of the creator, Ishvara, Kevali, there are no variations. That is why whatever he does is dharma, and that is why his state is called as dharma megha samadhi. In order to reach to this stage of Kevali, he has to continuously try at the last frontier, and depending upon the kind of try he does, the kind of effort has been divided as Mrudupaya, Madhyamopaya, and Adhimatropaya. The slow, the medium paced, and the faster. And it is called Samvega. Samvega means Vairagya according to Vachaspati Mishra. Vijnana Bhikshu calls it Shigrata, the speed. The speed depends upon what is the Samvega. And that is why Patanjali Maharaj says, Tivra Samveganam Asanna. One who has a larger, higher speed, he reaches that stage of Kaivalya faster. Then a very relevant question has been asked by Patanjali Maharaj himself in the Bhashyam, in the Sutras, where he says that so far the yogi has not taken anybody's help. He is entirely dependent on his own antakarana and his ability to concentrate. Mind well, the yogi has not even folded his hands to anybody so far. The yogi hasn't gone to the temple so far. The yogi believes that the antakarana and the concentration, these are my implements, I do not need anything else. And with sheer dint of his purified intellect, which is able to concentrate in the form of chitta vritti nirodha, he is trying to reach the destination. He does not believe so far in having anybody's assistance in this. We haven't seen anybody as a guru so far mentioned by Patanjali Maharaj. All we have seen is one single individual called Yogi sitting in Padmasanam and using his purified intellect with enormous power of concentration and with sheer dint of personal efforts. The word has to be underlined that he has reached up to the stage. Now comes the question that in every endeavor we do, howsoever personal it may be, is personal effort alone enough? Or is there any other way? We all intend to be emancipated. We all are mumukshatva ichuka. We all are listening to the lectures early in the morning simply because we want to attain salvation. We want to be away from all this samsara bandha. If we want to do that and we are ready to do the efforts, at the same time we are simultaneously praying. What do you mean by praying? We are asking for help. In other words, we are simultaneously doing our personal efforts and asking for a favor from a person called God. And for that favor, we ask the favor in the form of prayer. So personal efforts and prayers is the combination that we normally do in our efforts. But the yogi so far has been only dependent upon the personal efforts. We don't see anywhere so far in the discussion of 27 mantras, up to, I would say, up to 22 mantras, we do not see any outside help coming to the yogi. But right here, looking at the enormous expanse of absolutely exhaustive activity of a yogi, a legitimate question comes to our mind and has definitely come to the mind of supreme intellect called Patanjali Maharaj, that is this the only way that I have to do everything on my own with so much of effort? It looks so dreadful. It always lurks, the danger of falling down lurks, the danger of impossibility always lives in the mind. And that is when he gives an alternate called Ishwara Pranidhanat Dva. Ishwara Pranidhanat Dva is the 23rd mantra, a very important mantra. What it means here is you have a choice of doing all that has been described so far, or you can also achieve it by Ishwara Pranidhana. Ishwara Pranidhana means first time the word Ishwara has come in the Yoga Shastra. It alerted everybody because Sankhyas have specifically denounced Ishvara. They have not mentioned Ishvara anywhere. Why? Because Prakriti is happening as described and discussed by us earlier. There is something called Purusha, then there is a Prakriti, then there is a Mahat Tattva. From Mahat Tattva we get Ahankara, from Ahankara we get Gunas. From the Gunas, then Sattva Rajatama combination, the Ashtada Prakriti, the Srushti, the Jiva is formed. Where is the need of Ishvara in all this? And this is all maintained through the interoperability of the gunas. The gunas shall take care of everything. The papam, the punyam, the dharma and the adharma, the sthula and the sukshma shariras, etc. All is managed by the gunas. Why do you need a Ishvara in between? So according to Sankhyas, there is no regulating principle. There is no need of anybody lording over the creation because the creation is a self-unfolding process. However, when the Yoga Shastra, especially Patanjali Maharaj mentions the Ishvara, everybody gets alerted. But we need to understand the Ishvara as enunciated in Advaita and other places, or in the Purvamamsa. That Ishvara and this Ishvara is different. We need to understand the difference between the Ishvara of Yoga Shastra and Ishvara of what we know. We all know that our Ishvara is the creator of the world. Utpatti Sthiti Laya Purnata is Ishvara. Unfortunately, in yoga philosophy, Patanjali Maharaj does not believe into one aspect of this, and that is the creation aspect. Ishvara in Yoga Shastra is all-knowable, omnipresent, omniscient, all that is fine, but he is not the creator of the Srushti. Why? Because the Srishti keeps creating on its own by its own unfoldment. We have seen the entire process how the Srishti is created. If that is the case, then the question comes, then why this Ishvara is sitting in between? What is its role? If he is not the creator, then what is the role? And that is why Ishwar Pranidhanatva needs to be understood. First of all, what we need to understand is this is an alternate given to an yogi, that you can either achieve the state of Purusha Khyati through the process so far described in 22 sutras, or you have an alternate called Ishwar Pranidhana. Pranidhana, what it means is Pranidhanat Bhakti Visheshat Avarjita Ishwarastam Anugrahat Abhidhyana Matrena. That means by doing bhakti of the Ishwara. Now let us understand what is this bhakti and what is this Ishvara. So far, yogi has been concentrating on his intelligence or antakarana on a particular, started with an object. The object initially was any object in the universe. That is how he started when he was at the level of Savitarkas Sampradnyat Samadhi. Then he slowly starts dissolving the object. As you see, he was concentrating on tanmatras, then he was concentrating on buddhi, then he was concentrating on ahankar, and then what happened? There was no object of concentration, which we called as nirakar. So that means he moved his object of concentration from an object that is physical in nature to the object which is mental in nature or psychological in nature, to a stage where there is no object at all, nirakar or void or whatever you call it. So that is how his ability to concentrate went up and higher and higher. So the object also slowly starts vanishing from physicality of object to mentality of the object to nil object. If this is the case, then now how is it that the Ishvara is coming in between? What Patanjali Maharaj is trying to say here is, there is a tattvam called Ishvara. If that tattvam is understood and if you are able to now focus on him, then what happens so far, all the objects that the yogi focused or concentrated upon, he came to know the nature of the object, and that is how his expansion of consciousness happened and the knowledge widened. Now you're asked to concentrate on a thing, on a particular person called Ishvara. And when I say person, I'm meaning Purusha. A particular person called Ishvara. The reason is, here you are not trying to understand the nature of the Ishvara, but here you are praying to the Ishvara because Ishvara has an ability to come forward and give a helping hand to the yogi to cross over. So Ishvara is an object of concentration and not to know the object, but Ishvara is an object to seek the blessing or the krupa, which is also called as pushti in one of the bhakti marga. If you see the philosophy of Shuddhadvaita or the philosophy of Vallabhacharya, there is a word called pushti. It is also called as pushti marga. Pushti marga means the way that believes in grace of God, krupa. So that means there is an entity called Ishvara, who is not the creator of the universe, but is an entity which is absolutely compassionate to the extent that it comes forward in the form of krupa or pushti or blessing and helps the yogi. And with that particular blessings, it is possible for an yogi to cross over faster. So Ishwar Pranidhanat is one additional alternate way for the yogi to move forward. What it means is, Ishwar Pranidhanat Va, or the word Va means you can either go on your own the way it is described up to 22 sutras, or you can ask for Ishwar Pranidhana. Now the question is, the yogi who has already reached up to 22nd mantra, he has already reached which stage? He has gone beyond Prakruti Laya, and he's trying to do his last ditch effort. Now, when he already reaches the Prakruti level and beyond that, he is closer to Jnana. And after that, he is trying to do Ishwar Pranidhana. This is what precisely is described as Jnanottar Bhakti. Why a Jnani, why a Jnani should be doing a Bhakti? Because he is Jnani. Mind well, Jnani, when he does propitiate Ishvara at the stage when he has reached almost Dharma Medha Samadhi just before that, then for him to cross over the final frontier and to get established in Purusha becomes easier. So Ishvara Pranidhanatva. So that means this Ishvara does an anugraha on the yogi. So anugraha is called krupa, called blessing, called pushti. There are different names for it. Now we need to understand, if there is only one Purusha and one Prakruti, where is this third Ishvara coming in between? What is his role? What is his position? That is first part. Second part is, why is it that this Purusha, this particular Ishvara, is not same as Purusha? And that is why atha pradhana purusha vyatiriktaha koyam ishvaro nam iti. Who is this Ishvara that came suddenly in between when we were so far talking only about Prakruti and Purusha? And that is the reason why Patanjali Maharaj keeps on elaborating what Ishvara is. Mind well, the concept of Ishvara that we have has a lot of bearing coming from this definition of Ishvara. We cannot forget the statement made by Gurudeva that it is all Sankhya, Sankhya and Sankhya in Bhagavad Gita. Only a person of Gurudeva's caliber was able to understand Bhagavad Gita so well that he could see the cacophony of the sounds and reverberation of Sankhyan philosophy everywhere in the Bhagavad Gita. Let us try to understand why he was saying so. He was saying so because even the concept of Ishvara, which has been, because mind well, in the entire Veda and Upanishads, there is no word called Bhagavan. If you take entire Veda and Upanishad, the word Bhagavant or Bhagavan is not there. The only word used in one of the Upanishads is Mundaka Upanishad. Kasmin Bhagavo Vijnate Sarvam Idam Vijnato Bhavati. Bhagavo, that is the only word, but that is again Bhagavo. To know, in that manner it is used. Word Bhagavan is not used anywhere. Ishvara word only except Isha Vasya Upanishad, in which Isha Vasyam Idam Isha, that is the only word for Ishvara so far used in the entire Upanishads, otherwise it is not used. So it is the speciality of the Yoga Darshanam of Patanjali Maharaj where this Ishvara has been described in so much of detail. And this avarjita Ishvaraha prasaditaha abhimukha krutaha, when the Ishvara is propitiated, he becomes prasanna and he gives what is called as a blessing, krupa or anugraha, which helps a yogi to move forward in his march. Then the fundamental question is, who is this Ishvara when already Purusha has been defined? Ata pradhana Purusha vyatiriktaha koyam Ishvaro namaiti. Who is this Ishvara other than Purusha and Prakriti? And then 24th mantra tells us who is he, and that mantra is Klesha Karma Vipaka Ashaya Aparamrushtaha Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha. This is the most concise definition of Ishvara. Sankhyas as well as the Yoga Shastra are famous and known for the preciseness and absolute structured thing that they have given to us in the form of a darshana. Klesha karma vipaka ashaya aparamrushta purusha vishesha ishvaraha. Ishvara is a purusha vishesha. This is a very important point. Now we have two words in front of us. One is Purusha and Prakriti, which we have heard so far. Now there is a word coming, Purusha Vishesha. So the structure goes like this. We are all called as Sadharana Purusha. Why we are called Sadharana Purusha? Because there is a Vishesha Purusha called Ishvara. Now what is the difference between Sadharana Purusha and the Vishesha Purusha? This is very important to know. You will realize we all know what is Kutastha, what is Chidabhasa. We presume that we know that. In Advaita Vedanta, the consciousness that is residing in everybody is called Kutastha. That Kutastha then in the Antakarana or the Buddhi gives its light in the form of a Pratibimba, depending upon which Vad you accept, Avachedvad. Let us keep that aside to avoid confusion. But let us say that there is a universal light called Sun, which is consciousness, which is illuminating me in the form of a small bulb, which is again a part and parcel of the universal consciousness, but it is within for this particular limited adjunct called body of Mr. So-and-so. My Buddhi holds the reflection of that consciousness. That reflection in the Buddhi of the consciousness is called Chit Abhas or Chidabhas. So the Kutastha, that means the consciousness residing in me of the whole consciousness, that consciousness, reflection of that consciousness in my Buddhi and my Buddhi. So intelligence, reflection in the intelligence and the Kutastha together are called Jiva. This is the Shastriya Paribhasha of the Jiva. Now, if we know this particular Shastriya Paribhasha, it will be easier for us to understand what is Sadharana Purusha and Vishesha Purusha. Now, when the consciousness is already illuminating my intelligence or Antakarana, Then why Kutastha and this reflection have been separated? The separation is because although my intelligence acts in this world with the help of reflection of consciousness in it, Chidabhasa, whatever is happening in the world is happening because of my buddhi, not because of Chidabhasa. Let's be very clear on this issue. In Antakarana is basically what? A crystal ball. Crystal ball by itself cannot illuminate. It is clear, fine, but it cannot give light. Now when the light falls on it, it illuminates. And then it can enlight something else. So the question here is, whatever is happening in the world, which is giving me sukham and dukkham, is because of my buddhi, not because of the chidabhas that is existing in the buddhi. However, because chidabhas and buddhi are together, we ascribe all these afflictions called sukham and dukkham on the chidabhas himself. When all the issues that are facing in the world, that we are facing in the world of sukham and dukkham, we ascribe it to the consciousness within me, that means to the chidabhasa. It is called sadharana purusha, sadharana consciousness. Because why? It is affected by what? Affected by klesha karma vipaka ashaya. 4 problems are associated with jiva. We all are affected by a variety of problems, but they are classified and segregated into 4 types. Klesha, karma, vipaka, ashaya. These are 4 issues, 4 problems in our life. These 4 problems are attributed to the buddhi. They are because of the buddhi. But we falsely allege the consciousness responsible for it. And that is why that reflected consciousness is called Sadharana Purusha. Actually, Chidabhasa and Kutastha are not 2 separate. They are one and the same. One is reflected light, one is original light. Both are light. If this is the case, then we are a Sadharana Purusha. But there is also a Purusha which has never been affected by these 4. Klesha, Karma, Vipaka, Ashaya. Never ever. Never ever. Such a Purush is called Ishvara. I am aware the concept of Ishvara is difficult to understand. We will take sufficient time to explain it. But we are just introducing the concept of Ishvara in Sankhya Tattva Jnana. What is the concept? Ishvara is a Purusha, type of Purusha. Now the question is, we initially said there was only one Purusha and Pradhana. Mind well, in Sankhya Tattva Jnana believes in multiple Purushas. In Advaita, we call Chaitanyam only one. Chaitanyam in me is same, Chaitanya in you is same. In Sankhya Tattva Jnana, Purusha in me is different than Purusha in you. Does that mean Purushas are of different types? No. Purusha in me is restricted to me in my buddhi because of that nature of the buddhi creating different issues in the world. So my Purusha is called Sadharana Purusha because I'm suffering, afflictions are there. There is a Purusha which has no afflictions whatsoever. And what are the afflictions? Klesha, Karma, Vipaka, Ashaya. One who is constantly free or one who was never bound by these 4 is called Ishvara. The question most important is, why at all break our head in classifying these 3 Purushas? Sadharana Purusha, Vishesha Purusha, and that Purusha, Prakriti Purusha. The reason for this classification is the Vishesha Purusha is inherently compassionate in nature and is constantly available for the blessings to the Sadharana Purusha. In broader line, every jiva can aspire for compassion from Lord. And that is the very reason why we pray. Otherwise, to whom are we praying? You may make it into Shiva, Rama or whatever, but why would he come to your rescue? How are we related to him? The relationship is, they are all Vishesha Purusha is Ishvara. You may consider Vishesha Purusha manifested in different deities. That is a different part altogether. The Sankhya's don't believe in it. Sankhya's believe only in one Ishvara, the one who lords over the universe in the form of knowledge, not in the form of creation. This is the difference in Yoga Ishvara. One who lords over the creation in the form of consciousness, because he is the consciousness supreme. If he is consciousness supreme, then who is Purusha? Purusha is there when you enter into an arena of non-creation. In the created world, the Purusha in original form has to undertake some guna, otherwise he cannot exist in creation. To exist in creation, you need guna. So, Shuddha Sattva Guna Purna Ishvara. This is similar to what is called as Kshatrajna. So, that Purusha is Uttam Purusha. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, the word itself is used as Sankhyan word, Uttam Purusha. Uttam Purusha, the highest consciousness, which is neither creating nor doing anything, Shuddha Nitya Buddha. In the created world, because we all are jivas, constantly trying to emancipate from this world or the bandhanam, in order to help all the jivas, ever compassionate Ishvara is standing there with his grace ever flowing. And why is it being done that? That is because all the jivas and the creation are incomplete in nature, apurnam. And the whole universe or the Srishti is trying to go towards the Purnatva. So mind well, there is nobody in this world who is not trying to reach Purnatvam. One may take millions and billions of years, but the journey is towards him. Completion means Ishvara. So this journey which we are undertaking is not easily surmountable, lest with lots of difficulties. We are incapable many a times of crossing over the tides. Even for a yogi of that particular strength also finds his abilities less to cross over. At all these points, Ishvara as an entity, not tattva, as an entity. Don't add Ishvara as a tattva. Why? 25 tattvas of Sankhya's are fixed. There is no 26th tattva called Ishvara. That's why Ishvara is not considered as a tattva by Patanjali Maharaj. So he's not diluting Sankhya Tattva Jnana anywhere. However, Shuddha Sattva Guna Yukta, Klesha Karma Vipaka Ashaya Aparamrushta, not afflicted by these four, Vishesha Purusha, called Ishvara, is there for the Anugraha. In fact, we have never bothered to find out why I am praying. What is the power of prayer? Why everybody is constantly banging, all the saints, sadhus, Gurudeva, everybody is saying, pray, pray, pray to the God. Pray means what? Why by just saying Ram, 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 Krishna, 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 how it will help me? The gist lies in this particular sutra, because Ishvara is there. The question is, then who will get how much blessing? Depends upon who prays how much earnestly. So the prayer of a yogi at a Prakriti Laya stage is so earnest that Ishwar Krupa happens. As Ramakrishna said, somebody who is drowning into the sea, the way he struggles to come up, if that is the kind of the prayer you have, then the blessings will be in equal measure. And the Ishwara Tattva is Ishwara entity, is constantly present to give the grace depending upon the earnestness of the sadhaka. And earnestness is decided by what? Lesser the ego, higher the earnestness for the Lord. If you pray to the Lord with lesser ego, how do you pray to the God with lesser ego? because ego demands. That's why if you go to the Lord Tirupati Balaji and tell him that I will make you a partner, what is happening? The whole stupid ego has been brought into the prayer. So the Lord also gives equal amount of grace, means almost nil grace. So I went to Balaji, nothing happened. Nothing will happen because the grace cannot flow that way. So niswarthi prarthana, aswartha, without swartha prarthana. So that is why we have come to a gross understanding of what Ishvara is. We need to understand it more. We also need to understand these four applications called Klesha, Karma, Vipaka, Ashaya, because in this lies the key of Karma Yoga. We shall be able to understand Bhagavad Gita more clearly and more intelligently if we understand Yoga Shastra better. Why? Because yoga is based on Sankhya, and Sankhya is the soul of Bhagavad Gita. They are all interrelated. As you start expanding your studies, you will realize that how they are intricately interwoven with each other. And that is why we shall see in detail Klesha, Karma, Vipaka, what it means, how these applications are there, because in next pada, in sadhana pada, we are going to get these details about avidya, klesh, everything is going to come in detail, because it's a complete darshana. And that is why, what is klesha, what is karma, what is vipaka? And look, karma and vipaka has been separated. Vipaka is phalaprapti. So karma is one affliction, phalaprapti is an affliction. Phalaprapti is an affliction, mind well. That is why don't expect phalam. Why don't expect phalam? Phalam itself is an apatti. How it is an apatti? It creates ashaya. We are going to come to that into the subsequent sessions. We shall give virama to the Vani at the moment. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji.
Hari Om.
The 19th was this, that day I had this doubt, I just want to clarify that. Bhava Pratyaya Videha Prakriti Layana. So you said that Videha Deva will be taken birth as human, whereas Prakriti Laya, it will remain in Prakriti and then finally reach to Purusha. But here in this 19th verse, it is said it becomes the cause for samsara. So can you explain that?
Yeah, I will explain you. Because it is in Sabrahmanda. The Videha Deva is in Sabrahmanda, means he will be born within the period of before the Pralaya, he will be born and then he will again further start his journey. In case of Prakriti Laya, he shall be born for the salvation only when the dissolution has happened. In the next Sarjanta, in the next Srushti creation, his reaching to the Lord is now subject to complete dissolution of this Prakriti, because he is one with the Prakriti. So when will he come out of the Prakriti? Only when the Prakriti gets over. Over means it is retracted back into the Mula Maya or the Mula Prakriti. Again, when it will be expanding, from that seed of Prakriti, he will come back for his final salvation. Now the question is, when the Videha Deva gets reborn before the Pralaya, because he is subjected to because he is now at a Vikruti level. Videha Deva, see, Prakriti in the beginning is in purest form. It is about to express itself. So now the gunas have not yet started. That is called as original Prakriti. When the gunas have started, it is called Vikruti. So Videha Deva is in the bandhana called Vikruti Bandha. While the one who is at Prakriti is called Prakriti Bandha. Both are bandhas, and bandhas are to be destroyed. The question is, Prakriti Bandha cannot come down because he has already gone beyond gunas. So now the question is stuck between Triguna, he has crossed. Yeah, as it is, but he has not gone beyond the Prakruti. So he has remained as a potentiality, as we said in the beginning, the Prakruti. That means he is in the Shakti form. Now, when will the release be coming? The release will come only when this Prakruti withdraws itself, and again Srujanata is there. That time he will be born only for the final frontier. Then what happens when these people are born, when these yogis are born, Prakriti Laya yogi, we get a yogi on this earth of extraordinary brilliance, precocious intelligence. Right at the age of 6, he is like most intelligent person on the earth. We have had these incidences in the past. So there are two ways you will get human beings walking on this earth with enormous intelligence. One is avatar, which Bhagavan has described in Bhagavad Gita. That means Bhagavan himself is coming in the form of Krishna or a Rama. That's one part. Now, this has nothing to do with Prakriti Laya. This has nothing to do with Videha. It is simply the Purusha who has come down here, taking the vesture of Prakriti as a udhar, because he doesn't have any prarabdha or anything, just for the sake of welfare of humanity. Yada yada hi dharmasya. So that is what that avataram is. Second is Prakriti Layas coming back and Videha Devas coming back. So when they come back, they have come for their last. That's why many times the gurus say, this is your last birth. What do you mean by that last birth? That you have already done your yoga up to the level of Prakriti Laya or up to the level of Videha Deva. So many of the times, Videha Deva, you will find going through a little rigorous routine and then getting salvation. Prakriti Deva, they come almost as an avatar, almost, but they are not avatar. So that even their guru also is for the technical purpose, they do the guru, not to vitiate or violate the niyama of the Srushti. Take example of Kabir Maharaj. Kabir Maharaj did guru as Ramananda. But frankly speaking, Ramananda Maharaj himself learnt a lot from Kabir. So technically he was a Shishya. But because he was already an exalted state, so he just did the guru for the technical purpose and got the salvation. Now to differentiate between who is Avtara and who is Prakriti Laya and who is Videha Deva, right now walking on this earth, it all depends on the sphere of influence. What is the sphere of influence of Lord Krishna? Hundreds of years. He is still relevant today. What is the sphere of influence of a yogi who must have died in 3rd century BC, of the name of whose we don't know? That means he was somebody who was moving upward and reached the stage. Similarly, what is the status of a Kevali? That is what we are studying. Patanjali Maharaj. Patanjali Maharaj is known as the first Kevali, the first person to reach Kaivalya in whatever that earlier period they call it. There are 26 acharyas in Sankhya Tattvajnana, first of which is Kapila Muni, third is Shankar Chakreshwar. So there are many like that. So Prakriti Laya has to wait for the Pralaya, with the Srujana will come back and he will get emancipated. The only difference between this is Prakriti Laya as well as this Videha Deva, when they come into this is their last birth. So they do everything very quickly. They sometimes die very early because when the work is done, because they have no other work left. Because at that level, everything goes by divine will. So you will find some Rishis dying at the age of 20. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had 6 Shishyas. He said, all of you 6 are Ishwar Koti. What is Ishwar Koti? Same as Ishwara. That means they were almost Prakriti Laya Deva. That's why he said, in fact, he told Kali Mata that I wanted somebody to take care of me because I'm constantly absorbed in your meditation, and you have sent somebody, he's more absorbed than me, he's a Ishwar Koti. If you read Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's biography properly, you will realize this, how different level of yogis came to him. He himself was an avatar. That's why he said, I'm Ram and Krishna together, because he was an avatar. But people who came around him, they were yogis of different level and orders. That's why he saw this Abhidananda Maharaj. He saw and immediately he said, oh, you are a yogi of last birth. This is your last birth. You will not be taking birth again. All this happened because of these different levels of yogis. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji.
Hari Om.
There are so many points to contemplate from this Sutra 23 that Ishvara Pranidharthava. In this, you rightly said it's we are incapable in crossing over. Now you have mentioned in this Chidabhasa, which is actually it's creating the sukham and dukham in a body, in a human being. But in some stages, you were mentioning that these are all purva karma, earlier birth. So that's little they are conflicting in this. No, that is if you can next.
No, it is not conflicting. Let us be very clear. Chidabhasa does not cause sorrow or happiness. I will give you an example. Suppose you have a torch in your hand, and in the light of the torch, you saw a snake. Now, can you say that it is the torch which scared me because it showed me the snake? No, you don't say that. Why? The torch has what is the function of torch? To enlighten whatever is in front, right?
Yes.
Similarly, Chidabhasa just makes you able to work in this world, because without consciousness, you can't work. So right now also your ears are hearing my words and making some sense out of it is because of Chidabhasa. So that's fine. The question is, because Chidabhas is residing in my buddhi, when it does something bad, I almost ascribe it to Chidabhas. I use the word ascribe. So Chidabhas per se is not doing anything wrong. The wrongs are done by the buddhi, but it is alleged that Chidabhas is doing it. This is an allegation. We are going to come to that word. It is called Vyapadesha in Sanskrit. That will be in the next sutra coming. So what happens is, consciousness is so big and wide, a part and parcel of it is in my body. Actually, it cannot be parted or it cannot be parceled into small things. But for the sake of understanding, let us say there is a sun or electricity available everywhere. Of that, I have taken only a small battery cell and put it into a torch. So that is also giving light, and the sun is also giving light. The sun is comparable to the consciousness of the Chaitanya, as we call it, a Brahman. The torchlight, what you are talking about, is a jiva. And in that torchlight, it is the cell that is giving that light. That cell is called Chidabhasa. Rest of the body of the torch is my body, including buddhi. That bulb which is there in front is buddhi. Rest of the body of the plastic and everything are my legs and arms. Now the question is, that filament is there only in that bulb. So the light is coming from the battery cells, Chidabhasa. Battery cells light is coming, then why is it that the entire torch is not illuminating? Because it doesn't have illuminating power. Only the bulb has the illuminating power, because there is a filament there. This filament is buddhi. So this buddhi, now that you saw something in that light, and suddenly what happened in that light, you saw gold. In that light, you saw some snake. Now the question is, the objects are different. They are seen by buddhi. Now, Chidabhasa is not telling you that, oh, you saw snake, be happy or be scared. You saw gold, be happy. No. Who decides that? The filament.
So, buddhi.
Buddhi. So buddhi is the one which is giving you the interpretation. Now,
yes.
Take example. Somebody passed urine on your body. The sentence itself makes you shudder, right? Now just think that that particular person who passed the urine is a small baby. How do you feel now? Nothing bad. See what happened? Buddhi. This is how buddhi works. But both these statements were made known to you by Chidabhas. The reaction to what has happened to the word is given by buddhi. And this reaction of the buddhi to the objects around is called vritti. And that is why Patanjali Maharaj saying is, stop the vritti. The torch is showing you lots of things. Don't get moved by it. Be steady. What snake? What gold? Once this happens, then what happens? Then the antakarana is not, or the buddhi or the filament is not deciphering the things. It is just passing the light. And if you just pass the light through you, you become a divine will, because you are an instrument of God. And who is the instrument of God? Gurudeva. Gurudeva's filament was so clean that it was only reflecting the Chidabhasam through the Kutastha. So actually Brahman was expressing itself through him. And such a person is called Ishvara. So Gurudeva was Ishvara Koti. Hari Om.
Sanjay ji,
Ji.
just a small clarification.
Ji.
I mean, I know that, we talked earlier that yogis are higher than gods,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
you've reached one more level. Now
Yes.
we've talked about this Prakriti layer,
Yes.
level, who is
Yes.
now seeking the blessings
Yes.
and the kripa
Yes.
of something called Ishvara.
Yes.
And you were referring to, prayer towards gods.
Yes.
So, why are we using the word God again
Yes. Yes. Yes.
after the
Very,
yogi
very,
has translated?
very good question. Very good question. Very good question. Yeah, the answer is very straightforward for that. We have used the word Deva earlier. Videha
Yes.
Deva, Prakrutilaya Deva, not Videha Ishwara. No. Deva and Ishwara are different. Deva means somebody who has an ability to lighten up. Div is the dhatu. Somebody who has an ability to lighten up. Now, how much can you enlighten anything? Depends upon how much power you have to enlighten, isn't it? So when you have a power to enlighten, which is a seemit, limited, you become Deva. When the power of enlightenment reaches its maximum, which is called as maximum expansion of consciousness, it is Ishvara. That is why, by loose using of these words in our Hindu philosophy, we have become very confused about it because we have multiple devas. Do we have multiple Ishwaras? No. We have one Ishwara. When we say Bhagwan, do we say that Bhagwan, that this Bhagwan, as if it is a title? Because there is one Ishwara, multiple devas. That is the reason you have so many pantheon of gods in Hinduism. Mind well, it is not because of some stupidity somebody has come out with so many gods. The very idea is, as the consciousness keeps expanding, as the knowledge keeps expanding, you slowly starts becoming Deva, Guru Devo. And the same Guru who helps you in this moksha, there is a similar Guru in the school. To him also we call Guru. Because why? He is higher in knowledge than me. So anything that is higher in knowledge is a kind of a Deva, because he is lightening something now. Now his sphere of lightning may be small. So Devas, which are like Videha Devas, even for that matter, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, who are they? They are not Ishwaras. Be clear about this. They are officiating on a particular function of the universe because of their ability to have the enlightenment up to that level. Yogi transcends the devas. However, the stage where the yogi reaches, which is called Kaivalya, is a stage which is similar to Ishvara. Now the question is, we are going to come to that point. What is the difference between a Kevali and an Ishvara? Are they same or not? Because even Kevali also doesn't have these bandhanas. The difference between Kevali and Ishvara is, Kevali is an yogi who had a bandhana earlier, who completely absolved these bandhanas and reached to the stage of Kaivalya and became Ishvara. However, Ishvara is some entity which is never bound. One is bound and released, becoming Kaivalya and Ishvara. Another is Ishvara by ab initio, no bandhanam. That kind of tattvam is existing. So that is why there is a difference between Ishvara and a Deva. So Prakriti Laya Deva, because he has an ability to officiate on a larger known creation. Depending upon the ability, he will be Deva. Now, who is, for example, Saraswati? She is a Deva of Devata of what? Buddhi. Now, if it is she's a Devata of Buddhi, then who is the Deva of strength? Because strength is a different aspect. That means aspect related. Lordship is given to the higher consciousness, which commonly is called as a Deva. Guru Devo, Guru Maheshwaraha. Guru is the only one who is everybody. Why? He is beyond them. Hari Om.
And so this is much clearer now. And this
Yes.
Ishvara is also, you're saying you need the help of this Ishvara to reach Purusha in Sankhya.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
The fact is, when you reach the Purusha, what happens is Ishvara again, when we are describing as what Shuddha Sattvaganam is Ishvara, right? In fact, in Advaita, same concept has been taken. That is why Maya Padhita Shuddha Sattvaguna Yukta is Ishvara. That is how Ishvara is described in Advaita also. Mind well, Ishvara is Sattvaguna means what? Specifically for the purpose of this creation, Purusha has come in a special form, so it is called Vishesha Purusha. But at the same time, that means he is still to be transcended. So the Purusha or the consciousness ultimate is a stage where nothing happens. All this we are talking about is happening thing. Ishvara is a happening, it's a constantly available Anadi Ananta Tattva. For what? Then what is the purpose when Purusha is there? Why did Ishvara came? Purusha doesn't do anything. Ishvara does. And what he does, his only purpose is emancipation of jivas. Jiva Kalyana. That is why Jiva Kalyana, because Ishvara inherently has a compassion and he keeps on producing bliss and blessings for all of them, all of us. That is why if you do something for other, it is called as Ishwar Karya. Why Ishwar Karya? Because anything which is done with selfishness is your Karya. Selflessness is Ishwari Karya. Ye Daivi Karya hai. We always say, ye to Daivi Karya hai. Daivi means a Deva would behave like that. And imagine a Dev also has a little bit of selfishness in reaching the Purusha stage. However grand the desire may be, but it is still a desire. Ishvara doesn't have desire also. By nature, like for example, a water flows from higher level to the lower level. Is there any purpose? No, it is its nature. Similarly, Ishvara by nature is compassionate. So compassion is constantly oozing out of him. And in that compassionate one drop will also help every jiva to move forward from where he is to where he intends to go. And that is how the entire creation is moving towards salvation. That is why everybody one day will be, but that one day is going to be far away depending upon the jiva's condition. And second is, till that time he is suffering in this particular world. That is the reason why we want to hasten up the process. Hari Om. Gurudev used to say, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.
So there is no form that you can attribute to this. It's a principle.
Nirakara, but Saguna. Gun aa gaya na? He's giving you blessing. That means gun aa gaya. So he is called as Saguna Nirakar.